We're 2 weeks into fall camp and about 3 weeks from the very first football game of the 2025 season, and a lot of questions still remain for this West Virginia Mountaineer football team, which can be expected. But in this episode, I'm going to attempt to answer a few of these questions that I think are still lingering for this squad. So let's talk about it. I'll give you my answers to some of these questions, let you know what these questions are, and we'll do that right now. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports news and analysis surrounding the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Big 12. West Virginia just had their very first intra-squad scrimmage, their first full intra-squad scrimmage on Saturday. Rich Rodriguez had a press conference afterwards, and he also did another press conference today, Monday, August 11th, after their another practice they have held. And I think we learned a little bit more about this team after that press conference. But let's go ahead and get started with the questions. The very first question I have is West Virginia able to win the line of scrimmage? Are they going to be able to be successful on short yardage situations like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1? A lot of critical downs, critical plays will come down to these short yardage situations. Can West Virginia win? After Saturday's scrimmage, Coach Rod expressed concern that the offensive line was not getting enough push up front. So that kind of raises a red flag. Hey, should we be concerned? But at the same time, it was only one scrimmage, only one practice, because we have heard a lot of positive things as well about the offensive line. We've heard offensive line coach Jack McNeil talk about how they look good. We've heard some other media outlets talk about how they feel like they look pretty good. So, and we've even heard Coach Rod say some positive things about the offensive line. So I don't think it's time to panic just yet, and I think the offensive line will be just fine. But it is something that is somewhat of concern, especially considering Ty Edwards, the big running back, the big-bodied running back that Coach Rod went out and got in the portal to try to be potentially that short yardage guy, to be the next C.J. Donaldson. Right now, he's ineligible. He's still waiting on a court case that's supposed to be heard on August the 19th to decide whether he and 3 other West Virginia players will be able to play this season. So if Ty Edwards is ruled not eligible, if he's not able to win that court case, West Virginia doesn't really have that other big-bodied back on the roster. Well, they have to rely on someone like Nico Markiel, who's, 6'2", 230, 235, somewhere in that range. Well, they have to rely on Jalen Henderson, who's about 6'3", what's he, around 225? Well, they have to rely on someone like that. Well, they have to rely on their quarterback to get a lot of their short yardage stuff. They have to do a lot of tush pushes, those types of things. Would they put a tight end back there? Maybe somebody like Colin McBee to play fullback and try to, I don't know. There's a lot of different things they could do, but it is fair to be somewhat concerned about it. But at the end of the day, I think before it's all said and done, West Virginia will get that figured out. Hopefully, Ty Edwards will be able to play, and also hopefully the offensive line is able to improve and get better push later on down the road as we get into the season. The second question I have is, will the passing game be good enough? After the scrimmage, Coach Rod talked about how the tight ends did some good things. He talked about how the slot receivers did some good things, but he said they did not really get much on the perimeter. And he talked about how they ran like 90 to 100 plays. And if they didn't do a lot on the perimeter in 90 to 100 plays, is that cause for concern? Well, after hearing Coach Rod's press conference today, Monday, August 11th, I'm going to say no. And I have a couple reasons why. Number one, he talked about how it's very possible this West Virginia team may actually throw the ball more than some other recent teams Rich Rod has had. And one of the reasons for that, the quarterback play. He expects the quarterback play to be good. He talks about how this is one of the better quarterback rooms he's had. All the quarterbacks that are competing for the spot, all 5 of them, can throw the football well. And he thinks all of them can throw it pretty good. So he said it is possible they may throw the ball more than some of the more recent teams. Now, Rich Rod in the past has had teams that threw the ball more. You go all the way back to his days as offensive coordinator at Tulane. He had a quarterback named Sean King. He was a prolific passer. So Rich Rod can throw the football. He just prefers, he's more of he likes to be able to run it down people's throats. But if he needs to throw the ball 50% of the game or more, he can. He should prove that in his career. But another reason I'm not too concerned about it is I just really like this wide receiver room. I'm not going to take one practice, one scrimmage, and base it on that. We know how good Cam Vaughn can be. And his ceiling is just way up here. He's going to get better and better and better. Remember, He actually came into college at Jacksonville State a year ago as a quarterback before switching over to wide receiver and having a very nice year, a very big year as a freshman. So I still think he can do good things. I think Jaden Bray is going to be able to do good things if he can stay healthy. They have a lot of speed on the team. So I still think they can have a good passing game with the quarterback play that Coach Rod has talked about, with the speed that they have at both the slot and at the wideout position. I'm not concerned that they didn't get a lot of activity to the wideouts in one scrimmage. And also, it could have been a little bit of coach speak from Coach Rod. Maybe he didn't want to give too much away. That Coach Rod he doesn't like to tell us everything. He likes to keep some things close to the vest. He's proven that over time. And I'm thinking that might be the case here. They might have actually there may have actually been some great moments with the wideouts, and he just didn't want to spill the beans, so to speak. I don't know that for sure. I was not at practice. Have not spoken to anybody that was at practice. It's just a theory I have that maybe he didn't want to say too much. The third question I have is, will the defense actually be the strength of this football team? I think it's actually very possible. We've heard from, Chris and Mike talked about it on their Country Roads Confidential podcast earlier today, how from everything they've been told and everything they've heard from their sources, the defense won the day. The defense beat the offense in that scrimmage. Now, that's not that shocking this early in the season. The defense normally is further ahead. But considering how multiple Zach Alley likes to be, how complex he likes to be, and how much install he has to do, and how many different formations and plays and everything he likes to run, for the defense to be that far along and that far ahead of the offense at this point in the game, or this point in the preseason, that tells me that I think this defense is going to be pretty darn good. I think they talked about how good the tackling was. And, for the tackling to be good, they've only had 3 practices in pads now, maybe 2 or 3, and the tackling's good. I think that's a good sign. And I think when you look back at Zach Alley's history, I think it's fair to expect this to be a pretty darn good defense. I think they'll get after the football. I think they'll force some turnovers. And I think they'll be very smart. I think they'll be a very smart defense. I don't think you're going to see as many missed assignments, guys out of position as much as we saw in the past for this West Virginia team. So I do think it's very possible for the defense. And let's be honest, there are more returning pieces from last year's team. And I know it's a different scheme, a different system, so maybe that doesn't matter as much, but I think it does matter. Guys who are familiar with how to do things in Morgantown and at West Virginia, and guys who know what it means to wear the old gold and blue for, 2, 3, 4 years now, people like Eddie Vestorinen and Hammond Russell, those types of guys, there are more of those guys on the defensive side of the ball. Reed Carrico comes to mind. You also got a lot of veterans, even guys who have played at other schools on that side of the ball. A lot of, guys like Chase Wilson at linebacker, just to name one example. Fred Perry on the back end, who's played a lot of football. So, Michael Coach Jr., in the secondary. So, at corner. So, I think there are a lot of veterans on the defense. I think there are a lot of smart players on the defense and more experience on that side of the ball than we see in a lot of positions on the offensive side of the ball. Not saying the offense isn't good enough or as talented, but I just think it might take them a little bit longer to get where they need to be. But again, it's not that unusual this time of year. Fourth question I have, after Jaheim White, who will be the number 1 back for West Virginia, or the next guy up for West Virginia in that backfield? Now, Coach Rod has even said, hey, I haven't even crowned Jaheim, and I'm paraphrasing, but, why are you guys crowning Jaheim yet? I haven't crowned him yet. I haven't named him the starter yet. Have you? Do you know something I don't? Those are the types of things he's been saying. But I think it's kind of fair to assume he's going to be the starter. But after him, Jalen Knighton's not eligible. I was very excited to see what Jalen Knighton could do at Morgantown, but he's yet to be eligible. We don't know the reasons why, but nonetheless, he's not eligible. I mentioned Ty Edwards. He's not eligible. You've got Cannon Katzer. You've got Sincere Bowers, 2 guys coming up from a lower level, and you've got Dior Hubbard, who was in Morgantown a year ago and is only a redshirt freshman or redshirt sophomore, rather. Or no, I guess he is a redshirt freshman this year. So you've got redshirt freshman Dior Hubbard, and you've got Jaheim White, you've got Cannon Katzer, you've got Sincere Bowers. Now they're looking to try to add an Andre Devine to the roster, but I don't think he's going to come in and be ready to go. I think he's a little bit of a I don't want to call him a project because I think that's disrespectful, but I think he's going to need a little bit more time to be ready than some of these other guys because he's already behind a little bit, and he didn't see any playing time a year ago. So at Jacksonville State, so I think he might take him some time. But that being said, and let's not forget about Clay Ash. Another guy who is in the mix, but again, he was a walk-on. I'm not sure where he's at on the depth chart. But I worry a little bit about who that next guy will be. Will they have somebody to fill that role? Heaven forbid Jaheim gets injured, or there's going to be times in the game where he gets tired potentially. Who can come in and fill the role of that running back, that RB2 spot? Who is going to step up and take that role? And will they be good enough, as Coach Rod likes to say, will they be good enough to win with if Jaheim White can't be in the football game? And then my fifth and final question, will the linebacker play be good enough? This is a position, and the reason I say linebacker, the reason I point them out specifically, we've talked ad nauseum about the O-line. We've talked ad nauseum about other positions, but I think the linebacker is a position that hasn't been talked about enough. And when you look at Zach Alley's history, heck, he's a linebacker coach, but he needs very good linebacker play for his defense to work. He needs his linebackers to be reactive, to anticipate what's going to happen. When you go back and look at some of the highlights, I point to Jed Drenning over at the In the Gun podcast. He did a great film breakdown of some of Zach Alley's previous defenses and some of the things he does that makes it so hard to prepare for. Makes his defense so hard to prepare for, and he needs his linebackers to play very, very smart and very, very well. I think this unit can do that, but it's yet to be determined. Can a Reed Carrico step up and take his game to another level? Can the transfer like Chase Wilson come in and be the player that we expect him to be? Do we see improvement from some people like somebody like Ben Cutter, who's not been talked about a lot? That's another player that has some experience in Morgantown, along with Reed Carrico. Can those guys run or be as good at that linebacker spot as some of the previous stops Zach Alley has made at places like Oklahoma and at Jacksonville State, places where he's gotten really good linebacker play, and he's had linebackers that are able to anticipate where the ball's going to go, to be able to jump routes and do things like that that make big, big impacts in football games. I think they can, because I think they're smart. I think they're well prepared. I think they're well coached. And I think they'll be able to come up and, I don't know if West Virginia's linebackers will be the most athletic group of linebackers we've ever seen, but I think they'll offset that with their intensity, their intelligence, their anticipation, and those types of things that also make a difference in a football game outside of just pure athleticism. So I'm anxious to see that group play and see how good they adjust to this new style of defense of Zach Alley. I want to hear what in the comment section. Let me know what you think. What are your biggest question marks right now? Outside of the obvious things of who the quarterback's going to be and the offensive line, outside of those questions that we talk about all the time, what are some other questions you have about this team and this roster going into the 2025 season? And what are some of your answers to some of the questions I might have asked? And did I answer them to your liking? Do you agree with my answers to some of these questions? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I want to give a quick shout out to the paid VIP members of this episode. They are Cody Cutright, Appalachia Africa Twin, Shane V, Big Dan T, and Phil Masters. Thank them all for being paid VIP members here on the channel. If you want to be a paid VIP member, all you have to do is hit the join button below and pick out which level you want to join. There are two options. It's all explained once you hit the button. Either hit the join button below or the one over at my channel homepage right beside the profile photo of my channel. Also, reminder to check out our website, wvsportschat.com, where you get West Virginia news in written format. Also, you will see coming out in the next few days, you will see the 365 Sports newsletter. I am proud, Rogue Sports Network are the owners of 365 Sports, and I'm proud to be a part of that family. And I am proud to be a part of that newsletter. Be on the lookout for that coming in the next few days. We ask that you please subscribe to that as well once you see it coming. I'll be posting it probably on social media, maybe even right here on the YouTube channel, so be on the lookout for that. I want to thank you for watching. Remind you that you can also support me. If you can't support me financially, you can support me for free by hitting that thumbs up button. It's a very easy way to support me. It's free. It's easy. It means a lot. You can also subscribe to the channel, help me get to 10,000. Share it with your family and friends. I really appreciate everything. I appreciate your support. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf. God bless. Q Country Roads.